Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another All Things M365 Compliance podcast. I am, as always, Ryan John Murphy, Senior Compliance TS at Microsoft. And of course, I'm always joined by Nikki. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Ryan. Hi, everyone. My name's Nikki Chappell. I'm a Principal Cloud Architect at Cloudway, a Microsoft partner, and I'm also a Microsoft MVP in Microsoft 365 and security. And today, really pleased to welcome back again for his second appearance on the All Things Microsoft 365 Compliance podcast. Welcome to Tatu Seppala.
Thank you very much. So I'm an architect, security architect, and a Microsoft MVP in Purview Information Protection from Finland, where it's finally starting to get into summer slowly.
Same here in the UK, actually. We never really have a summer, but there you go. But yeah, again, thanks for joining us again, Tatu. Really appreciate your time. And today we're going to be talking again about AI, more specifically about AI Hub. Tell us all about it, Nikki. Tatu.
Yeah, so the AI Hub is literally, I think, launched in public preview this week. So it is a way really to track what people are doing with generative AI apps. So a lot of companies haven't yet invested in Copilot, but everyone wants to get onto the bandwagon. You know, ChatGPT, we saw that with the launch. You know, it was the fastest application to get like a million users. It was just phenomenal. Now, everybody wants to get ahead of the game and everybody is using third-party AI apps. I mean, I didn't realize things like Grammarly. I mean, I use Grammarly for just my, day-to-day work to help me improve my written word. That's an AI application. You might not think you're using that with your corporate information to make it look better. Therefore, you're sharing your data with outside organization. It's the same with things like ChatGPT, etc. So there are big risks where you are now oversharing inadvertently. Users in the organization are sharing their corporate information with lots and lots of third-party tools. So notice too, you said you had a look this morning. How many third-party apps are Microsoft tracking now in the AI Hub?
Well, Nikki, the number is 329. So if we think back to a couple of years ago, ChatGPT came out November 22. It was just that and a couple of other obscure services that didn't really take off. A couple of years later, we have hundreds of sites, and I can see like there have been thousands shortly because it's much easier and well known. The tech is mature. So I think the period where we can recognize AI services as AI services will be rather brief. Soon it'll be incorporated into all kinds of services like Grammarly that we don't really even think about.
So really the benefit of the AI Hub, it allows you to start tracking on these 392 different services. And I'm assuming Microsoft are tracking those all the time, so they'll add new ones as they come in. So it gives you really a start of a broader insight into where is your sensitive data being shared and what type of actions you're doing. And I think that the good thing is about it is even if you have never created a DLP policy or an insider risk or communication compliance, they've got some one-click controls where it says, recommend setting up these policies and it will do it for you.
Cool.
Yeah, there's just just point on the prerequisites. I mean, Nikki, you mentioned that it's easy to get those DLP policies set up. The thing is, AI Hub doesn't really require anything. We can get deeper into that soon, but it doesn't really require anything super complicated or anything new. Most likely, if you've worked a little bit on your organization's data security solutions, onboarding devices to Purview, you got most of the prerequisites down already.
Cool.
So you're very close to getting value from that, I think.
Yes, I think the prerequisites are you need to have the audit log enabled. Well, I don't know why you would want to not have the audit log enabled, because obviously that's the kind of the baseline. As Tatu mentioned, you need to have your endpoints monitored because, of course, that's where your browsers are. And you need to install the browser plugins. So I think there's browser plugins for Edge Chrome and Firefox. And with those browser plugins, the purview, I think they're called the compliance plugins, that allows then Microsoft to see what activities are happening in the user browser. So you may well have already had those things installed.
So I guess one of the main questions here, Tatu, is around licensing. Okay, do you need a specific license? Do you need M365 Copilot, for example, or even Copilot for security licensing? What's your uptake on this?
Well, Ryan, I think you can think of it in terms of a couple of different target groups for AI Hub. Copilot for Microsoft 365 licensing is not a hard requirement. E5 licensing or E5, let's say, compliance licensing, at the very least, is. So if you don't have Copilot for Microsoft 365, you can still get insights into use of consumer AI services that are not Copilot for Microsoft 365. However, if you are Copilot for Microsoft 365 licensed and you have E5 or E5 compliance, then you can bring in very granular visibility into how people move sensitive data around in Copilot as well. So I got kind of two different target groups here.
Okay, that's good to know. Sorry, Nikki, go on.
Yes, I think that's kind of quite useful if people are not sure about whether they want to, invest in Copilot licenses. You can at least implement that and just see what the use is within the organization. So you can see if there's like heavy use within maybe particular departments. That might be good for testing it out, for example. But it's also really good when you've invested in Copilot, because there's a big adoption part to the Copilot for Microsoft 365. You invest in the $30 per user, but then you need to make sure people are actually using those apps. So the policies that are automatically put in place, so you've got DLP policies, and they are kind of tracking sensitive data. So Microsoft have just put in all of the standard like SITs in the list, and it is only in audit mode to start off with. But at least you can see what you're doing, and then you can quickly go and edit a policy, because sometimes that's easier, isn't it, to edit something rather than start off with, oh, how do I create this DLP policy from scratch?
Especially if you're an organization that's like that. Sorry. I was just kind of boosting you on that, since especially if you're an organization that's not familiar with DLP, you might not know how to build a policy yet. But if you get an example, you can work from there, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's good that you get that insight, like you say. What I'm seeing at the moment, specifically in some of the industries that I work in, is Copilot for M365 or in Copilot for security is bringing back around those compliance conversations, around sensitivity labeling, data loss prevention. I do know Copilot for security has some capabilities and will have even advanced capabilities when it comes to data loss prevention, even to, like Nikki's point and your point, Tatu, advisory work on those DLP policies. But if you don't have that, it's really good that Microsoft are giving you that ability to start you on that journey via the AI Hub. I think that's a really good value add from Microsoft to get you into that journey.
I would advise people to edit the policies. So they are looking at like the standard information type. Some of them are looking at like the trainable classifiers there. There's an adaptive protection policy there. So it's like risk-based. The higher the risk, it can then block with the override if there's doing sensitive data as well. But I think this comes back to probably every single purview conversation I have. You have to know your data. You've got to know what you want to protect. It's great to have all the out of the box SITs, but what about all of those, sensitive projects that you're working on or other activities? That's just a baseline. I think AI Hub, I think organizations need to really understand what else they need to be adding into the policies to track.
Yeah, that's right. And there's kind of two different angles where you can get help from AI Hub 4. You got the risk angle, like whether or not people are moving sensitive data services they're not supposed to. But ultimately, when especially for organizations that are investing in Copilot from Microsoft 365, there's also the adoption angle that we've been looking at Sulava, since when you bring out these new, admittedly not cheap, but worth it AI services like Copilot, you expect people to use them. And at first, you need to identify champions, right? You need to identify people who are pioneers by nature. That's not always easy. So one of the things we found value for AI Hub from, very likely value at least, now we can try it out, is you can identify people who are already proactively using various generative AI services within the organization. These people are likely inquisitive by nature and are good candidates to get trained up first in Copilot for Microsoft 365 to kind of help train their peers going forward. So there's a whole different angle there for why AI Hub is valuable.
I like that it kickstarts your journey. It makes it easier for us as admins, like you say, to understand who's already using what and to what degree that they're using it. Bring them into that pilot, bring them into that pilot application, whatever it may be that you're using to kickstart that journey. Again, really good value add for you as a business, and also for the team that are actually using those tools as well to mature their skills in those tools, mature those prompts that they're using, and then share that within the organization itself. That absolutely helps mature that process to get people using those tools more efficiently.
And I think also you can then start extending that process. So while initially these are in kind of monitor watching mode, once you've got people onto Copilot for Microsoft 365, you can start thinking about how am I going to lock it down? So rather than just auditing, you can move into the kind of block with warn, or or completely block some of the interactions as well. What you don't want to do is just suddenly say no to everything,
because people are going to get creative, right?
That's what
we saw with that's what we saw with Power Platform organizations that block Power Platform. See people making a lot of Excel macros that are potentially far less managed and far less secure than the alternatives. Maybe even using consumer services for some of this stuff. So it's the same discussion again. People are creative, so
indeed
it's better to offer services in a managed way than just block things.
For sure. That's why it's called data loss prevention, right? The prevention is the key piece there. You're preventing that in any way possible that you can. So I think, why don't we take a bit of a deeper dive into AI Hub, and let's see what we can kind of surface and be proactive with when it comes to those tool sets and AI applications.
Yeah. Do you want to go on?
I was going to say, the first thing you got to do is look at those prerequisites. So you need to have endpoint DLP. So as Tatu said, that isn't an E5 compliance feature. If you haven't got that, then you cannot track anything, because of course the browsers are on your endpoint. So that is mandatory. The audit log is mandatory because that's where it's getting all its signals from. You need to install the Purview compliance browser. Now you can do that for testing. You can just do that individually, but really you want to push it out via Intune or group policies. So I think they're the key prerequisites. You don't need Copilot license. And the other thing I think to remember, this is still in public preview. So Microsoft haven't announced what, if any, additional licensing it's going to need. So whether it's part of E5, whether it's part of Copilot, whether it's part of something else. But I'm advising people to start now because it doesn't cost anything. And, as long as you've got your devices enrolled, you're ready to go to start monitoring.
Yeah, that's right. Same advice, really. It's so fast to get started with, basically. Took me like a cup of coffee and a few minutes, since we already had devices in Purview at Sulava, and we already had endpoint DLP even in place, so it was really fast.
So what I can do is I can quickly share my screen. So unfortunately, I can't share my tenant because it's going to show public personal information. There's no easy way of doing this. So what I'm showing now, this is, if I just quickly close that out, we are going into, if I go to the top, this is the Microsoft Purview data security and compliance protections for the AI app. And this will give you kind of an overview of what you're doing. So what it's saying here is you're going to be able to discover activities. So that's what you want to say is, what is happening out there? You know, are people being creative? Are there risks? Are people sharing your corporate secrets? Then that allows you to put levels of protection in place. So that your DLP policies, your insider risk, your communication compliance. And then the third one is about complying with legislation. So there's a number of different legislations coming out. There's ISO 41001, which is about AI. There's the EU AI Act, and there's also a NIST Act as well, which I've completely forgotten what that one is. But that kind of will kind of say, here's some recommended activities to do. So if we just quickly scroll down and look at this diagram here. So what this diagram is showing, this would be a snapshot of what activities it's seen in your organization. So another really good prerequisite is if you've got your own sensitivity labels enabled and people are using those, as well as the sensitive information types it's shown, it will see your labeled content as well. So you've got this pie chart here, and that is saying what sensitive information is being shared with Gen AI apps. So here we can see the biggest amount is the credit card numbers. This is why I think it's important for you to tailor this, because this is just generic stuff. So even if it's just a keyword list, create an SIT with a keyword list of all your important terms and add that in here. Then we can move over here, and this is where it gets really exciting. You can actually see which specific applications, so out of those 392 or whatever, third-party Gen AI app, and if you've got Copilot, you can see the volume of the data, and you can see, you know, what the risks are there. We can see where different types of applications here. So this is one, top ethical use in AI applications. And we've got another one here for like insider risk as well. So these are kind of like the one-click policies that are being enabled. And then you kind of get this nice graphic here just to help you see your current state of play.
Yeah, I think insider risk was actually, not to get too deep into that tech in this one, but it was getting new indicators for AI activity as well. So they're really tying in these other existing advanced purview capabilities into AI Hub in many ways. Communication compliance is another interesting one, by the way. It's already like showcased in AI Hub in the analytics section. And for those that don't know, communication compliance now supports Copilot for Microsoft 365 activities. So if you kind of bring that in, configure that, you can really discover with AI Hub in a powerful way, not just situations in which people ask for sensitive information or put in sensitive information to Copilot, but also situations where they received sensitive information even without asking for it, which is a really key situation for rollouts when you first start, to identify those situations where potentially overexposed data is given to employees.
That's a really good. I mean, any compliance data officer listening to this is going to be thrilled to hear that, you know, that communication compliance as a supervisory tool, you can actually look at those interactions and see not only the data that the user has reasoned over, but the data that's been presented back to them, whether they ask for it or not. You know, Tatu, I think having that, especially from an investigation perspective, if something does surface that sensitive data has been exposed, and it's been exposed accidentally because of Copilot or whatever application that they're potentially using, having that forensic value to go and look at that, it's such a massive add for the likes of e-discovery practitioners or whatever the case may be. So again, kudos to Microsoft for having that there. I think communication compliance is not used enough in my perspective.
It's true.
And the good thing is, once you've got these policies, I think it sets up 2 DLP policies, 1 insider risk and 1 communication compliance. It's literally one click, off it goes. And then you've got those charts, which are just high level. And then what you can actually do is you can drill down into each one of these. So this screen will look very familiar to people who are used to the Activity Explorer. So basically that's just presenting you information from the audit log in a more, I suppose, consumable manner. So you can start actually filtering this. So for each one of those charts, you will go into a filtered view of this. So you can actually look at particular users. You can look at any time period within the last 30 days. You could say, I just want to focus on Copilot for Microsoft 365 or one of the third-party app. You can drill down into particular sensitive data. So again, this gives you a nice view to start actually having a look and seeing the information. Of course, then if you click on one of these, as you do with the Activity Explorer, you get a little bit more information out about it. So
yeah, and on the other hand, knowing my customers, at least there's going to be at least some data protection officer. They're worried about our admins now looking into all the Copilot interactions and other AI interactions of users. The Activity Explorer, Nikki just showed, does not contain the actual prompts and responses people are putting in. So not the communication itself, rather just that such and such interaction took place, and there was possibly such and such sensitive information involved in it, which is a different thing.
I think that's really important to note, really, because this is taking information from the audit log. So the audit log is tracking our interactions. Say it says we've interacted with Copilot, whether it's Word, Excel, or now with the plugin with third-party Gen AIs. It's going to say who it is, the time it is, and then it's picking out the trigger. So when you're having a look, and it will say, oh, this is picked out sensitive information types. So this is Nikki sharing credit card information, for example, or some other stuff. So it's just giving you kind of that high level view of the world.
Yeah, and definitely not using AI Hub does definitely not allow admins to snoop in on people's AI interactions. That's like, I can already see that being a worry that we have to tackle right off the bat.
But what I like as well is, and when you shared the image, that it did show the link into Insider Risk Management. So you'd literally have to have Insider Risk Management permissions, either the admin, the analyst, or the investigators, as I recall seeing on the prerequisite screen. So you're absolutely right. Anybody looking at this thinking that there's going to be an overspill of data, there isn't. Microsoft have literally built a proper roles-based access control system to ensure that you get a high-level view, as you do in other applications like DLP and so on and so forth. But that deep dive data analysis is actually kept away for those people that actually need to see that information. So again, that's a great add for AI Hub, I think.
Yeah, even as a compliance administrator, so that's the role that I have in my organization, I can see the policies, but I cannot see the information inside a risk management or communication compliance. So, even with that compliance admin role, you do need those granular roles to do activities.
Yeah, AI Hub is clearly positioned, in my view, more towards understanding trends and trends and categories of users and categories of usage, more than detailed inspection of individual use cases.
Yeah.
So what I can do is I've got one screen that I can show you in a production tenant. So I won't be able to drill down into too much because obviously it has personal data, but just to show what it actually looks like. So I installed this, I think 3 days ago, the day it was launched. I think it was the 6th. Really easy. You've got these 4 steps here just to make sure. And if you click on one of these, it just gives you some information about how to get started. So if you don't know what the browser extension is, you can go and then click on the Microsoft article to learn. So that's really good. The piece about recommendations, this is the guidance to the AI regulations. The one that I couldn't remember was the NIST AI RMF1. So if we select here, it's going to say, here's the sensitive information that it's finding, and here's the recommendation. So these are kind of like information that's taken from Compliance Manager saying how you monitor for particular AI interactions. This is what you should be doing, what you should be configuring, how you monitor AI interactions in third-party apps, how to flag risky communications, etc. So it's kind of giving you step by step. So if you're not an expert in all of this, I really like that it's giving you those guided information. You can even go through, and let's see what's going to happen here. Open that in a new tab. It's going to open up in the compliance manager. I won't look into that there, but that will kind of take you through to the 3 details. If you're using sensitivity labels in your organization, you can see your activity here. So it's actually showing you what interactions are happening without labeled data. So even though that we've got mandatory labeling, there are still instances where we are using unlabeled data. And why this is really important is that Copilot is great that it will automatically label any responses with the sensitivity label of its source content.
Indeed.
So if you're referring to a highly confidential document, then the responses back will be highly confidential as well.
Going forward, without going into specifics, I can really see sensitivity labels being a critical layer for actually, critical layer for controlling, Copilot usage. It's already that, but I can imagine it going even further in that direction in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had conversations, and I think Nikki and I had mentioned this on another podcast, where customers of mine have deployed sensitivity labels, and now Copilot is there and can reason over that data. They're now actually considering to remove people that are highly confidential that don't need to be in it, and so on and so forth. So I definitely think sensitivity labels will play an essential part in that reasoning over Copilot data from a Copilot perspective.
Absolutely.
So just some more, this is kind of some analytics. You can see interactions with Copilot. Some of these other things aren't ready yet, and I think it's because not everybody's using it yet. You can see where sensitive data is being used, etc.
Oh, I like the insider risk severity.
Yes, these are your insider risks. So, we're a small organization. This is only just switched on. So, and we haven't been trying to negatively test it yet. So we're going to start doing this. And then this is the unethical AI interactions. This is your communication compliance. So you've got this nice little dashboard that I think just gives you like an overview of what is happening in your tenant. And I just think it's, for me, a fantastic tool to build your Copilot business case, because you can go to your board and they're saying, I'm not sure, it's $30 per user per month. And then you can say, well, look, actually 75% of your organization are working in third-party apps, and of that X% is sharing risky information. So this is where you got that balance between productivity and security. Suddenly, rather than Copilot for Microsoft 365 being seen as a risk, actually it can be seen as a benefit, because you're moving away from third-party apps and bringing those searches in-house.
Yeah, it's only a risk if it's kind of unmanaged and in a Wild West configuration. But AI Hub nicely gives you that visibility, but also the reminder of what else you can do, which other services you can use to manage your, not just Copilot, but AI usage in general and the risk involved. Because there's lots of services, including data lifecycle management now, by the way, in certain ways, which is a topic for another day.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Tatu. I think, again, not to reiterate my point or sound like a broken record, is I think a lot of people will come around to the Purview stack now and really start to concentrate on the elements of it, even down to the likes of in e-discovery, those Copilot interactions and so on and so forth, DLP, DLM, RM, like you've just said, insider risk, but more predominantly sensitivity labels. But I do think, from my perspective, the AI Hub is a clear and concise way of looking at your AI interactions within your environment. I think AI Hub, for me, is definitely one of the top reasons why you would want to have it, to get that feedback, not only from your users, but from interactions with other applications. I think it's definitely a green light to build out a business case for sure, and continue to ensure that your users are using AI responsibly. And I think, thank you. And I think that's about us, isn't it, Tatu? Nikki, anything more to add before we close up?
I think that's enough for today. It's given people an insight. Go out and try it, see what happens. And I'm sure there's going to be lots and lots of interesting things all about AI and Purview in the next 12 months.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me on. It's always nice to see you too, and have a discussion on these very important topics.
Yeah, for sure. You're always welcome here, Tatu. We appreciate your input. And of course, people who want to know more about Tatu, you can see his at me on the screen right here. And I will say from my own perspective, I really enjoyed Tatu's blogs. He's had some good information out there. He has a great series on insider risk management, which I will put in the bio of this particular episode. I'll include a few links as well from what Nikki has shared also to get you going on that journey. But thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.
Bye.